morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome everyone to today's webinar on empowering institutions and communities to drive lifelong learning for climate action. My name is Edith Hammer, and I'm a program specialist at the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning in Hamburg, Germany. And today we have the 6th edition of our monthly webinar series on building green, inclusive, and climate resilient urban communities, which are organized in advance of the thematically related International Conference on Learning Cities, which will be held in December in Rail Industrial City in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Throughout the last month, we have already covered a broad range of topics in the webinars. We have discussed about green skills, climate assemblies, about how to use the potential of digital technology to support lifelong learning for climate action, among other themes. And today we will explore how educational institutions and the broad range of local learning providers can support climate action at the local level, and also how local governments can build strong alliances with local stakeholders. An important leap forward in the global climate education movement has been the establishment of the Greening Education Partnership led by UNESCO, and we will also learn more about this today. So today we are looking forward to 4 presentations. First, our UNESCO colleague, Ms. Won Young-byun from the Greening Education Partnership team will give us insights into the major developments in the CHEP and also how institutions and governments can benefit from these. And then we will move to more practical insights from learning cities with short presentations from the city of Durban in South Africa, the city of Kushir in Romania, and the city of Marrakesh in Morocco. So we have quite a packed agenda, and I will ask all speakers to stick to the time so that afterwards we can also have enough time for answering questions and for discussion. Very briefly, some technical notes. So kindly use the chat box for any comments you may have. We also have a Q&A box for any questions you may have for the panelists. Please post them there. You can post them anytime. We will try to respond to them in writing, and we will also select some of the questions from there for the discussion that is going to follow. So for this webinar, we are offering interpretation into 5 languages. And please let me take the time to thank our partners for their support. For Arabic, interpretation is provided by the Regional Center of Quality and Excellence in Education under the auspices of UNESCO, located in Jubail Industrial City, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Korean interpretation is kindly provided by the learning city of Goyang in the Republic of Korea, and Chinese interpretation is provided by the Shanghai Municipal Institute for Lifelong Education, SMILE, in the People's Republic of China. A big thank you for all of our partners for making the webinar more accessible through language interpretation. So without further delay, I would like to introduce our first speaker today, Ms. Won Young-byun. She is the team leader of the Greening Education Partnership team in UNESCO's section of Education for Sustainable Development, based in Paris. And she will provide us with an overview of the ongoing work and major developments of the Greening Education Partnership, showing how it supports institutions to become green and foster green skills and knowledge. And so I think this will be a really very valuable input to set the broader framework for today's discussion. And so with that, the floor is yours, Won. You have 8 minutes.
Thank you very much, Edith, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody who have joined this very interesting webinar. So my name is Won Young-byun, and please call me Won, and I'm the team leader of the Greening Education Partnership team within the section of Education for Sustainable Development at UNESCO headquarters. So as Edith has kindly introduced, I will be briefly introducing and also reminding of our activities around the Greening Education Partnership, and also share some of the global guidances that has been co-launched within the partnership that could also inform the activities within institutions and communities to drive learning for climate action. So I'm very happy to also be part of this conversation, as communities action is one of the 4 pillars of the Greening Education Partnership, as shown on the screen. So this partnership was launched in the September 2022 as part of the UN Transforming Education Summit. And currently now, after 1.5 years, we have 91 member states and over 1,400 organizations who have joined this partnership, including some of the members of the UNESCO Learning Cities Network. So please feel free to join this network, and I will post the QR code at the end of this presentation for you to refer to. So this global partnership is all about everybody who is interested in facilitating and creating and collaborating together the synergies for climate action at whichever level, whether it's greening schools, greening curriculum, greening teacher training and education systems capacities, and also greening communities. And of course, on the greening communities working group, now this is led by the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning and FAO and World Scouts. So each of the 4 groups are led by different organizations, and it's really a big global community of practice on which we have the privilege and to play the role as the secretariat. So building upon this global network that is now created, today's topic diving into this question of empowering institutions and communities to drive learning for climate action, I would like to briefly highlight on these key 3 areas of questions. So what do we learn and where to learn and how to learn to drive this climate action at communities level and empowering institutions to lead on this drive? So first, on the what to learn question, I would like to bring to your attention the connections between the education for sustainable development and climate change education. So addressing these 3 pillars, the environmental, social, and economic aspects of sustainable development, we've been promoting as part of UNESCO's work the overall framework of education for sustainable development. And climate change, of course, is one of the key thematic areas, which is now getting increasing spotlight because of the climate crisis that we face today. So within this overall context and building upon all the discussions that have been going on within the ESC work, now I think it's important for us to reflect on the context-specific learning that could be done at communities level and led by institutions. For example, around this greening curriculum guidance and green school quality standard that are shown on the screen, there are some key elements that could be connected directly to the learning activities within the local communities and institutions. And this needs to be relevant for the local realities and questions. So it's important that we connect these learning outcomes and activities and areas that are highlighted in this global context into the locally relevant realities and questions. For example, if your city is by the sea and there are fisheries industry that are connected, how does that relate to climate change? And how does it speak to the kind of skills and knowledge that is needed for those who are involved in the fisheries industries to know about what is coming up and how we can adapt and mitigate climate action. And then bringing diverse expertise is very useful in this regard. So it's not only the academia, but civil society, organizations, and national and global experts can contribute to make sure that unpacking of this overall global context is done in a very relevant manner. And thirdly, I would like to point out that it should be, of course, audience specific and speaks to the people in every walk of life, given that lifelong learning is all about being relevant to everybody's life throughout their whole journey of learning. So in that sense, making it, unpacking it and turning it into the relevant talking points that are connected to the speaking and interest areas of individual groups. For example, if you're speaking to young people, teachers, or local government officers, I think there needs to be a little bit of unpacking that would be critical to make it relevant and interesting for them to listen to. So in that regard, I would like to share with you the two guidances that hopefully will be helpful and useful in your efforts. First is the greening curriculum guidance. So here in this effort, we've been trying to, as part of the global community of the Greening Education Partnership, we've been trying to identify what are the key areas that needs to be learned in relation to climate action. So it's not only about learning about climate science, what is climate change, but also about the impact in our society. So for example, climate justice, you can see here in blue boxes, climate justice, resilience building, eco-anxiety. These are some of the rising issues on climate change. And also about our futures, post-carbon economies. What does it mean to be decarbonizing our communities, and how can we live sustainable lifestyles? So on these guidelines, you can see that there are different learning outcomes that are defined for different age groups. And here on the slide on the left side, you can see the learning outcomes defined for sustainable lifestyles, for example, that has 18 plus marks. So we start off with 5-year-old to 18 plus, and particularly this 18 plus part is relevant for lifelong learning. So you may wish to look how the key topics should be addressed in different areas and domains and topics underlined its guidance that is relevant for your activities as part of lifelong learning cities. And you can see also on the right side, for example, the transform futures. This is relevant for climate justice and how we can design through community renewal, transformative peacemaking, just transition, post-carbon economies, how we can make sure that communities are engaged and are leading this transformation to more just and sustainable futures. So in this regard, I think there could be also relevant learning outcomes, particularly across all age groups, especially around these behavioral learning domains where communities need to be engaged together. And finally, the third part I would like to point out is the point of the climate anxiety and constructive coping. For example, getting involved in our community and talking about climate change, making sure that we address the fears and concerns that our young people, but everybody in general, are facing, because we're seeing how hot things are getting right now with extreme heat waves, the floods, and all these natural disasters impacting everyday life. We are worried and concerned. So addressing this psychological aspect is also important, and that's where community has a particular strength, that we bring the communities together, make sure that we reflect on where our communities stand. Do we have enough trees? Do we have enough shelters? Do we feel safe about our government's policy to move forward on climate action? What else can we do together as a collectively, as a community? So I think this kind of conversation could be also interesting for you to take a look, aside from, of course, raising awareness about the knowledge of climate change and how it impacts your communities. Second tool that I would like to share with you today is the Green School Quality Standard. And here, among the 4 areas, so it talks about schools, which may be a little bit different from what you're doing directly with lifelong learning elements, but is quite relevant, because what we are trying to promote schools is that schools become the innovation hubs for climate action. For example, if solar panels are introduced first in schools, it can also inform and inspire the rest of the communities around the school to take it into their homes. Vice versa, the community members who are experts on these elements, for example, fishermen, if you're in a fishing village, a fisherman can come to classrooms and talk about what kind of changes that he or she has been observing in the recent years. For example, the types of fish that we get is changing, and this is the impact of climate change, and what you're doing as a fishing industry to address this. So this can inform the students to learn about climate change in both ways. So that's why community engagement is strongly represented as part of the Green School Quality Standard, which we are trying to promote among the schools. So in this sense, this where to learn is important. So School of Life is everywhere, and local institutions messaging across what what kind of stories do we want to tell in the community about climate change, and how we can use, for example, different local festivals, celebrations, and ceremonies to pass on this message, because it's not a static thing that needs to be done in classrooms. It needs to be lived through our lifelong learning experience within the communities. And also highlighting the role of local media and informal learning in bringing and raising awareness on this topic, and making sure that greening education with the community adds meaning and brings change, meaningful change in our communities. And thirdly and finally, how to learn part is on focused on project-based action learning. So it has to be something that everybody can take part, do action, and see the results, even though it may be very small, that we can celebrate together. So in this sense, I would, I mean, this kind of global learning networks and learning cities programs are particularly important, engaging with different community members, identifying potential partners, having a dialogue for mutual understanding and collaborative culture of trust, so that these kind of joint activities can be created together to have that meaningful climate action impact across the society. And of course, it's always important to have fun and have celebrations. So positive cultural change, media exposure, and if there are opportunities, for example, good award-winning opportunities for the cities to be part of because of the climate-related actions, please, I think that will be also an interesting opportunity to spotlight and give additional boost. So there are different activities, and with these two tools, which I will share also as the links in the chat, we hope that these tools can help for you to collaborate. And of course, this QR code here will lead you to the partnership, including the link for you to join the partnership if you would like to also continue this dialogue with other partners across the world. Thank you very much for your attention, and thanks again for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juan, for this insightful presentation. I think it really shows the broad scope of both of the documents and of the Greening Education Partnership in general. That it's not only about, when we talk about how institutions can support and advance on climate change education, it's not only about the narrow definition of their target groups, school students or university students, but it's really about having an impact on the community and having a dialogue, and how schools can support family learning, how they can reach out to community centers and sports clubs. And I think the two documents, Katie has kindly already shared the links also in the chat. I would really also underline that invitation to consult the documents. I think they can be very useful. From the side of URL, I would like to add also that together with the Food and Agricultural Organization and the World Scouts Organization, and together with a group of around 30 experts internationally bringing their own expertise from academia, from youth networks, from adult education and so forth. And we're working together to jointly develop a standard setting and guidance document for greening communities. We are advancing very well with the drafts, and this will also be put for review and discussion at the 6th International Conference of Learning Cities. And it would then, as part of the longer term review process, also be circulated within the Greening Education Partnership to have a very broad consultation and to develop a very meaningful document that can really support also learning city administrations and leadership to become greener communities. So thank you very much, Juan. We will now move on to the more practical insights into what is happening in some of our member cities of the GNLC. And I would now like to invite Mr. Colin Pillay from the city of Durban in South Africa, and he will share some experiences on this topic. He's a program manager for research collaboration at the Municipal Institute of Learning in the eThekwini municipality, and he's also the focal point of the UNESCO GNLC in Durban. And so I would like to hand over to you, Colin. You have 5 minutes for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Edith. Let me get my notes up. Yeah. Good morning, afternoon, evening to each of you. My name is Colin Pillay, and I want to share some insights of two very successful projects, obviously ESG aligned, to demonstrate how with minimal support and creative learning interventions, a local government like Durban and elsewhere in the world can play a very meaningful role in empowering vulnerable and marginalized communities, and with significant and very beneficial outcomes. So this presentation is very high level, and I want to keep within my presentation time. Reach out if you need more details from any of the presentation aspects. So yeah, you see a good picture of Durban coastal city. Yeah, and on the front line, on the promenade, you'd see some of our international hotels and local hotels. Next slide, please. So as a caring city, Durban supported the owned and the homeless. So my presentation and the contents there is around how we have been responding to the homeless, and the outcome from that is, an empowered targeted group around the circular economy, and also how we've made maximum use of of limited resources there. Also touch on some impacts and benefits, and highlight some lessons learned. Yeah. So as a caring city, Durban supported both the owned and the homeless during the COVID pandemic period. The city of Durban established safe sleeping spaces for the homeless during COVID in 2020. And these temporary shelters were on vacant municipal land, very close to some of our international hotels. That was on your landing side on the Durban's beach promenade. It was quite coincidental that during the lockdown period, some of the homeless men took it upon themselves to start a very simple subsistence food garden near the temporary shelters. This initiative was very quickly identified by our city officials, and with very minimal intervention support, was swiftly turned into a pilot food garden project with amazing results. The garden was given a local name, Sisonke, meaning we are together. However, post-COVID, the Sisonke food garden, next slide, please, was not fully effective, as the original growers moved off, and the remaining personnel did not have much expertise to effectively run this thriving project. Yeah. Next slide. So in 2022, the city of Durban secured a local NGO, Bioregional South Africa was that NGO, to support the homeless and the unemployed persons at the Sisonke Garden. The NGO brokered funding to employ a permaculture mentor for 18 months and to train those, next slide please, who remained on site. And sorry, previous slide. There could be a slide missing in between there. Yeah. For those that remain on site and want to learn about food growing, and we, through the NGO, secured some donations to put up a fencing, small irrigation systems, water tanks, water drums, tools, etc. And also brought in a local university and a cohort of two sets of students who were, studying horticulture, to gain some work experience on site. The impact of that initial project was that it opened up opportunities for a retail supply. So the local hotel that was adjacent to the site, the restaurants, the local spa, and also obviously walking customers were benefiting from some of the products that were grown. So just to give you an idea of the economic benefits, the 3 growers that are now on site, in close to $400 from vegetable sales per month. Yeah. So what happened year after is that this Sisonke food garden spawned into a new project idea of composting. Now, if any of you know the food waste that comes out of a single hotel, we've done some calculations using the SA Food Lab analysis on food waste and run some tests. So the hotel closest to the shelter was generating up to about 38 tons per month per hotel of food waste. Now, if you look at that waste going into landfill, we were able to recover at least 5 tons, which could be composted. And this idea then sparked the composting project. As a pilot, through an arrangement with key stakeholders, we were now composting food waste from the committed hotels. In terms of impact, so while the intent was to improve the soil conditions of the existing Sisongo Food Garden pilot project, this pilot composting project is now showing results as a marketing opportunity for local composting. More importantly, I think we have now found a creative solution for diverting food waste away from landfill. Earlier this month, and to scale up and to roll out into other parts of the city had established a partnership with Green Pop Foundation, together with Bioregional South Africa, to look at how we can roll out and scale up on a similar initiative across other parts of the city. So the idea then is to look at establishing of green infrastructure, looking at education and maintenance opportunities, looking at also beneficiation and expected outcomes that could look at environmental benefits, economic benefits, social benefits, cultural benefits, empowerment. Yeah. So if you go to the last slide, yeah. So maybe let's look at very quickly from the limited time I have some of the key considerations I think I want to leave with you is the whole issue of collaboration. And we've seen this, come out very, very clearly from this project. That if you are creative and looking at innovation, we found that collaboration is key. Also identifying localized solutions and contextualizing your problem and identifying, solutions that works for you. How do you innovate and create out of, challenges and problems, opportunities and solutions? How do you inspire hope? And we've certainly seen an inspiration outcome from this simple intervention as local government. And certainly, how do you embrace diversity? These homeless people certainly have a very bright future, and also, become almost entrepreneurs in some way. I want to leave it at that. So if you need to reach out for more information and want more details, please connect with me. My card is on the last slide, or you can find me through other means. Thank you, Edith. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Colin, for your presentation and for the insights into how the city of Durban is becoming greener, also with a very strong social development aspect of supporting vulnerable groups and homeless people, and at the same time helping to support with the food waste and investing in the circular economy. I think this is really helpful. Thank you very much for these insights. I see that we already have some questions also posted in the Q&A box, and I would encourage everyone, if a question pops up in your head, to also post it there so we can feed it into the discussion that is to follow. I will now pass on the floor to two speakers from the city of Kuchir, Ms. Diane Dobrian and Ms. Luminata Sebutari. They will share some of the work they are doing in their city to make it greener. And Ms. Dobrian is the manager of the Kuchir Cultural Center and also the UNESCO focal point in the city. And Ms. Sebutari is a teacher and active volunteer in Kuchir, and they will share their 5-minute presentation with 2 inputs. So the floor is yours. Please start your presentation.
Thank you, Edith. Hello to all, and thank you for this opportunity. I am Diana, and today I'm here with my colleague team from Learning Cities, Luminita, teacher and also a volunteer involved in many projects as a teacher input, but also as a leader of association or member of NGO and other different local groups. We started to think rebranding Ujir from an industrial town a few years ago, but actually in 2021, we created a local strategy, a congruent local strategy, in 2021, which includes few very important areas: education, health, urban mobility, infrastructure, and digitalization. Also include recreation areas. We consider all this interconnected and based on defined project and many cooperation, local, national, or international. We permanently looked for cooperations between stakeholders, local partners, association, NGO, different public institution, and also external partners. We try all the time to identify and satisfy the inhabitants' needs for climate action. So together, all these partners, we created different programs dedicated to different ages. For example, children, young people, adults, or elders, and also mixed action, where they can action one with each other. We support and encourage each other to do all kinds of projects for climate action. For example, we at Cultural Center sustain different activities for climate action as a host, providing spaces or other resources. Also, focusing on national programs for school as Green Week, we made partnerships with the schools and create activities for kids, teenagers, with a green subject around the cultural area as hikes, movies, exhibition, art craft courses, and others. But Luminița will tell you much more about this.
Yes, in a world where climate change poses one of the greatest challenges to our survival, it is the youth who stand at the front of the fight for a sustainable tomorrow. Didactic activities carried out by our pupils and students in ecological areas as part of the project on climate action are more than just educational exercises. Our national and local projects span a wide range of impactful activities. Students are deeply engaged in cleaning up local areas, planting, promoting recycling initiatives, which contribute to the health of our environment. They also take part in activities like hiking, biking to understand the ecosystem and get knowledge.
Students also use arts for an attractive learning or transforming their school backyard into an orchard. Furthermore, through awareness marches and campaign, the young people raise the consciousness of our community about the pressing issues of climate changes, inspiring others to take action. These initiatives also extend to adults, fostering a culture of lifelong learning that empowers everyone to contribute to a greener future here in Ujir. We are actively cooperating with stakeholders across the board, from local association to political parties or community organizations. Together, we are building partnerships that transform our town into an eco-friendly community where every citizen plays a role in combating climate change. Our Center for Seniors, named Lotus, are contributing to ecological sustainability through a variety of dedicated events. By working with community, Lotus Center is a shining example of how intergenerational cooperation can lead to a more environmentally conscious community.
And our last big project our last big project is Just Streets, a big consortium where alongside 31 partners from 15 countries, we search for a better mobility on the streets, an active one for a better climate. We also permanently search new areas for improvement, stronger partnerships and good models for our project and also for our citizens. In the same time, we have some hopes and plans as a deeper understanding of climate action and how to change. For example, we would like to designate a Green Day weekly. I hope we are just in time. I think we have some problems with the slides. I don't know why. But could you, the team, say thank you for today? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much to both of you for sharing these projects with us, targeting people in Kushia, different ages also, and also promoting intergenerational learning among them. I think this is also a very important and fruitful approach to bridge the gaps between different age groups. And thank you also for providing the pictures, which always helps so much to envision the different places that we hear from in the webinar. So thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Thank you. We will now move to today's last presentation. We will hear from Mr. Beland from Marrakesh. Mr. Beland is a representative of the Regional Education and Training Academy and a technical committee member of the Marrakesh Learning City project. And he will present on two initiatives for environmental protection in the city, particularly referring to waste management and water saving measures, also emphasizing the role of lifelong learning. And importantly to note, his presentation will be delivered in French. So if you stay in the original language channel, you will hear his original French presentation. If you would like to listen to it in English, please move to the English channel for this purpose, and for the other languages, you can stay where you are. So please, Mr. Beland, the floor is yours. When you're ready, you can start your presentation.
Can everybody see the screen? Hello? Can everybody see my slides on the screen?
Yes, I can see them. No, not anymore.
Alors,
yes, we can see them now. If you can put them in presentation mode, that would be perfect.
okay, thank you very much. My name is Bujema Beland, and I'm representative of the Regional Education and Training Academy and Technical Committee member of the Marrakesh Learning City project. Today I'm going to share our experience in Marrakesh and my city committee, two different projects, and an interactive anti-waste project and another one based on water consumption. And it's education that concerns citizens directly. So I'll start with the first one concerning cleanliness. So after the integration of the city of Marrakesh into the network of Learning City, the municipality has worked on the multiplying partnerships with state actors and non-state actors to promote and support projects aiming to improve learning, whatever the stage in life, within the frame of the city, working on the generalization of model projects. So firstly, co-production of cleanliness, which encourages citizens to better manage waste, which we will look at in more detail. The town of Marrakesh was declared a learning city in September 2022. And one of its key objectives was the development and reinforcement of different actions to struggle against the climate crisis. Several initiatives have been set up, and notably a system for recycling waste and reduction of drinking water consumption. Marrakesh is working in this direction. And also diversifying plans and initiatives. Within this frame, we have integrated projects. So why did we choose such a project? Of course, it's perfectly included in our philosophy of learning cities and as undertaken by public authorities at a national level. There has been evolution in the phases, including technical phases and changes in regulations. This project has taken part and focused on just one part of this perspective, that's the waste management. Of course, this project aims to present solutions integrating three aspects: technical, which is still there, the technical aspects haven't gone away, an educational aspect, and of course, a regulatory aspect. This is a model because, of course, everything is interdependent. It's a circular model which perceives waste as a resource and not as rubbish to dispose of. So first of all, to change this perception in people's minds, you can transform waste into resources. And this project was initiated in 22 neighborhoods in Morocco, including the town of Marrakesh, in 2 areas of the city. The first is a very large district, Lahmid 5. We chose one sub-neighborhood where 343 households are focused on, and also Hay El Momadi area. So these 343 families took part because it's an overpopulated area. The second neighborhood, Hay El Mohammadi, is also included. The approaches adopted by this project, of course, there was a participatory diagnostic of the situation, including citizens analyzing a whole set of laws and budgets on a national level, but also to review the specifications at a municipal level in the city of Marrakesh to see for the next political office how things would be applied. It was diagnostics everybody took part in to revise policies. The second phase for us was training, awareness raising, and reinforcing capacities of citizens in terms of management so that they can appropriate things for themselves. And in this context, wide synergies were created. It started small and was extended from there. We issued a guide that we called Clean Neighborhoods, Citizens' Rights. Because often things are limited to closed off establishments with an audience that have been prepared. Here we included everybody, including school children, students, evening sessions to make sure that this mobilized as widely as possible. Then we set up, thirdly, sorting and recycling systems to value waste according to the specificities of every single area, because every city, there's a great diversity of neighborhoods and they needed some kind of coordination. Different neighborhoods have different waste, and we also needed the right authority certifications to set this up. And finally, the most important was communication and dialogue and advocacy with all the different agents and people concerned, because our strategy was also greater advocacy aimed at politicians and members of government, and our final aim would be to generalize this approach. And in fact, now this is actually underway. The person at the head of this project has committed to begin to retrieve this expertise and to extend it to 20 other neighborhoods. So this project was set up in 3 phases. Beforehand, we put in place structures and teams in charge of applying the activities of projects with contracts. There were representatives of the 2 neighborhoods concerned and an organization bringing together teachers, teaching staff, and also educational establishments and local educational authorities at a provincial and local level who are heavily invested in the issues concerned, and also the Islamic Affairs Department, because religious institutions also have a part to play here. And within this frame, we set up and developed neighborhood institutions, and these institutions had the responsibility of actually setting up the project. The final phase was communication. Just the last 2 slides. So learning and education was set up at the heart of our commitment for circular economy. We recognize the vital role played by education in the transition and transformation of our ways of consumption and production. Of course, the circular economy is not only a series of practices, but an approach which calls for complete integration within society. As a conclusion, this co-production project aimed at cleanliness and the strategy, communication strategy, is a model of projects which are perfectly aligned with the strategy of Marrakesh municipality to promote learning all through life as an approach to set up a communal action plan, and all the while protecting natural resources in the struggle against greenhouse gas emission. And it's true that the waste section is the second most generator of greenhouse gases in the city of Marrakesh. I will stay available to share more materials. I've already shared slides, including slides in English, should you be interested, concerning this project, and I await your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bellon. So with this presentation and the great insights into yet another learning city becoming more greener through also environmental protection issues, and particularly focusing also on the circular economy, which is a bit of a green thread through the presentations today. I would like to thank everyone. Please return to the original channel of your language to continue to follow the webinar. So with these great insights, we will move to the discussion part of this webinar. We don't have so much time left, but we have some questions in the Q&A section, and I would like to pick the first one, which is from Hoseok Kim. And it is for a question for one, but I would then also invite others to respond if they have something to contribute. So Hosiok is asking, based on your experience, how can lifelong learning educators be supported, particularly what kind of specific examples or recommendations would you have that might be of particular relevance to them? So we know that there is also one pillar of the Greening Education Partnership, particularly dedicated to educators in different formal and non-formal learning settings. So maybe you could share some experiences, particularly from that working group, but also how the two documents that you presented today are beneficial to educators in different environments.
Thank you, Edith, and thank you very much for the question. So indeed, as Edith just mentioned, in the Greening Education Partnership, there's working group 3 on teachers and educators and how we can support them to make sure that this is happening. So in fact, on 17th of September, we will actually have another webinar dedicated for non-formal learning educators and how we can support them for the climate action. So I will share that information in the chat as well for your information. And there's also the Teachers and Educators Guide that is being developed in that working group as part of the Greening Education Partnership. So we hope that that could also complement the Greening Communities Guide that is being led by the working group 4. And just on the examples very quickly, I think with particularly with these lifelong learning educators, it would be important that they consider organizing different types of activities. For example, targeted stakeholder training for local government officials or civil society organizations, and how that climate change can be relevant for their work. If they're, for example, working on welfare, it has to be relevant for climate resilience in their welfare activities, for example. Second is what kind of programs we can put in the community learning centers. So there could be different project-based activities that you can target specific to the local areas around the community. What is our climate-related topic that we want to pick? And that intergeneration learning from Romania that was presented earlier, I think that speaks very much to that component possibly to do that. And also ambassadors program, you can invite some of the community learning center leaders to be part of that. And of course, the vocational education training for local industries, whether it's tourism, agriculture, fisheries, we can identify and train them for climate change related activities on top of course, using schools as an anchoring point. So there may be various examples, and this could be also informed by the 2 guidance documents that was hopefully shared earlier. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juan, for your response to that question. I have another quite specific question for the colleagues from the city of Kushir. Jürgen Fockel-Schubert from Hamburg is asking if there is a commission from the city government for a network of ESD and some support for it. So do you have a kind of governance structure or institutional structure that promotes ESD at the within the city government, and are there funds and resources provided by the city? Maybe you could share some insights into that. I think that could be interesting for quite a few of our participants today.
Okay, if you want to elaborate more, we are part in a project.
I think the sound has... Excuse me, can you still hear us? Because I had difficulties in hearing you.
Is it okay?
I can hear you now, yes. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. An example. For example, we have part in a project that is named Just Streets project, where there are other 15 European and non-European countries. If we talk about seniors, we have not only one center, Lotus, but this is the main important one. There are other centers for seniors where we create and encourage the elderly to involve in local community projects with the younger or create events, for example, Family Day or Green Day. We also have collaboration with local stakeholders, or we have a strategy for the next 4 years, and so on and so forth. I don't know exactly what do you want to know.
Thank you so much. I think that's helpful to get a general idea of how ESD is embedded at the city level. I think also in case there's further interest to know more about the governance structure when it comes to ESD, I guess colleagues could also follow up bilaterally. We don't have so much time left, but I would like to take one more question that we have in the Q&A box. And actually merge them a little bit. So there has been a question about specific strategies that are employed for engaging marginalized communities, fostering intergenerational collaboration and enhancing citizens' participation. And at the same time, there was a question about how to raise more awareness for environmental pollution and climate action needed in local communities, and what can be the impact of individuals. So in that sense, I don't know, maybe Colin, as you have also presented, particularly in the engagement of marginalized groups, can you propose or share some specific strategies in addition to the presentation that you had on how to foster this awareness of individuals so that they can really make an impact, and what the government of Durban is doing in that sense?
Thank you, Edith. Happy to respond. Yeah. So in the Durban case, we've got a very active and engaged non-government sector. So I think many of our programs in the city, allow for inclusion of key institutional stakeholders in many of our programs. So certainly, working with NGOs, academia, the business communities, and big industries. It's quite an inclusive approach, and I don't have the details to share at the moment. But if anyone's interested, I'm certainly keen and happy to make that information available. And certainly, I think Durban's taken a very progressive view around how we deal with the homeless, given that in 2016 we embarked on a massive study. We found that there were at least about 4,000 of these homeless individuals, 2,000 on the streets and around 2,000 in the shelters. And we started to engage, using various approaches of bringing them into various projects and programs. So happy to share that information also, Edith.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think that can really be a way of also following up. We are already approaching the end of the webinar, but I think we have such rich experiences within the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities, and peer learning is also one of the important ways of capacity building in the network. So we very much encourage everyone. We couldn't answer all the questions that have been included in the chat today. We encourage everyone to reach out and get in touch also bilaterally to learn more, also from the city of Marrakesh. And with that, I would like to hand over for some final reflections of today's webinar and of what we've learned to Raul Valdez-Cotera. He's the coordinator of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning City and the Chief Program Coordinator here at URL, and I assume most of you know him. Raul, please, the floor is yours for the final remarks.
Thank you very much, Edith. Thank you, everybody. I found the contribution shared today very insightful. It's really an honor to accompany the Green in Partnership education. We have been learning a lot from them, and it's a process that we have been accompanying. And also, it's nice to hear and accompany the hard work that cities are doing on this topic of climate action. And we could see a little glance from these presentations, but there are plenty everywhere. So I think we need to open more the slots for learning more and share more. I hope that today will be encouraged many cities who are represented today in the webinar to discuss further possibilities to empower institutions and wider community members to drive lifelong learning for climate action. And for those cities that already have such experiences, I hope that they have been able to gain some fresh ideas on how to continue the work. I think that the links that were shared in the different publications could be quite useful for the cities. In general, I would like to thank all speakers and participants for joining us today, and the UL team for the invaluable support in organizing and facilitating these sessions. We have so many webinars now. It's really nice to see how the enthusiasm all over the world. And I'm looking forward to our remaining upcoming webinars. You can see the full calendar and more information about each event on our website. We would also like to remind you that the GNLC members can express their interest in presenting in one of the next webinars via the online survey shared by our team in the chat. Our next webinar will take place on Wednesday, 18 September at the same time as today, and we will explore the topic of building resilient cities, promoting green and healthy urban environments. We wish you all a very nice day or evening ahead. Thank you very much to all of you. Bye.
Merci. Au revoir.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Au revoir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.